Welcome to the Wedding Chaplain Podcast. My name is David Anderson, and I am so glad that you're joining us for today's episode. This podcast is designed for engaged couples who are preparing for marriage in the months ahead, but we also love connecting with couples who are already married. So whether you are newlyweds or have been married for years, and with anyone who wants to grow stronger at any stage of their marriage, this podcast is for you. If you'd like to learn more about our resources or our work as wedding officiants and guides for engaged and married couples, you can visit us anytime at weddingchaplain.com. So my guest today is Dr. Laura Sicola. Laura is a leadership communication influence coach. She's the author of Speaking to Influence, Mastering Your Leadership Voice, and the host of the podcast, Speaking to Influence, Communication Secrets of the C-Suite. She's also known for her TED Talk, Want to Sound Like a Leader? Start by Saying Your Name Right, which has been viewed millions of times. Laura has spent years helping leaders, executives, speakers, and professionals communicate with clarity, confidence, and influence. But what makes today's conversation especially meaningful for our audience is that Laura and her husband also lead communication workshops for married and engaged couples in churches throughout the Philadelphia region. So in this episode, we're talking about one of the most important foundations of a healthy marriage, communication. Engaged couples spend a lot of time planning a wedding, but they are also learning how to make decisions together, handle family expectations, talk through conflict, listen well, and build trust in the daily conversations that will shape their life together. So Laura helps us think about the gap between what we thought we said and what the other person actually heard. We talk about words, tone, body language, listening, confidence, boundaries, and the small communication habits that can either create closeness or create unnecessary tension. This is a practical and encouraging conversation for any couple who wants to communicate with more clarity, more kindness, and more connection as they prepare for marriage. So here is my conversation with Dr. Laura Sicola. Welcome to the Wedding Chaplain Podcast. I'm so excited to have our guest today is Laura Sicola. She is an expert in leadership communication, and she is the author of an incredible book called Speaking to Influence. And I've brought her on today to talk about communication in relationships. Laura, thank you for being with us today.
David, thank you so much for inviting me. I'm looking forward to it.
Absolutely. Well, leadership communication expert. I mean, how did you get to that? Tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, and how you became an expert in communication.
I think even as a kid, I've always been fascinated and a little obsessed, frankly, with the inherent need to be understood and to understand other people. That, like, why did you say that? Why did you think that? How did you get that from what I said? But you don't, and I think really that 90%, I'm going to say more than that, 99% of all conflict in the world is because there are two people looking at each other and saying, you're not listening to me, you don't understand.
Right.
And that driving need, that inherent gut level human frustration and almost desperation on some levels is really what has driven a lifelong study of how we talk to each other. And where that has, of course, then translated, I've done lots of research on it, got my doctorate in, over at the University of Pennsylvania, et cetera, blah, blah, blah. But it's all boils down to, okay, what is it about what you say and how you say it, to whom you say it, that makes it either go in one ear and come out the other, or go in and stick. And if it sticks, does it do what you want it to do? Or does it go to, how did you get that from what I said? And because they've got their own filters. We've all got their own filters. So you can think you're spoon feeding something very simple, and they're going to take a tomato and turn it into steak. You go, I don't understand how that is possible. So learning to understand what creates that gap and how to close it, that's become my life's mission. And it's no more or no less relevant in marriage and relationships than it is in the workplace. 100%.
Well, I would say probably marriage is where it starts. If you can get the communication stuff down in marriage, I mean, it translates really into just about every other arena of your life.
Yes.
So, all right, you're married. So these are lab tested ideas because
Yes.
you're married. How long have you been married?
I've been married 11 years now.
Okay. Any children?
Yes. I've got one biological son and one bonus son. And when I met my husband, he had a then 11-year-old from a previous relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And so I figured, why not, test the waters with a tween of my own, make sure I like them, and then have one of my own. So it all worked out well. They're
very
great.
good.
And I actually
how did you two meet?
Online.
Okay. Very good.
Yeah.
And then how did he propose?
It's funny, and this comes right down to the communications piece. It was, I think, about a month into the relationship when he said, I know you're the one, and let's just get engaged. And I said, you're nuts, because the new car smell hasn't worn off yet. Let's wait and see, give it a couple more months, get to know each other better, make sure you still like me after all the, best behavior stuff has worn off, and you start to see the daily default settings of each other. And we got about maybe 5 to 6 months in, and there were areas of friction, as there are with all couples.
Sure.
And a lot of it was we were both in our 40s at that point. So there's a lot of history. Everybody's got baggage. Everybody assumes, okay, you're doing this. Well, the last person I was with who did that, this was what, so you project. And I attended an event called the Landmark Forum, and I highly recommend it to anybody who has a weekend to focus on getting out of your own way fast. It's all about communications and whatnot. And I took that, and it was great. And I said to him, I realized where I've been projecting certain things onto you that are unfair, and I apologize for those, and I will commit to doing better on that. And because every month he was saying, let's get engaged, let's get engaged, let's get engaged. And I kept going, I'm not ready. I said, if you agree to go and do this workshop, go do the Landmark Forum, and you come out of it, and if that helps us with these things, then we're ready. And he begrudgingly went, but saying, okay, fine. He appreciated what it did for me, so he was willing to do it himself. And it did help him get clear on the stuff that I wanted him to get clear on, that we both needed him to get clear on.
Okay.
And so about a month later, we got married, engaged, and 3 months later, we got married. It was a year and a week from the first date.
Very cool. That's a great story. And we'll put a link to the Landmark Forum in our show notes. Now that's not a guarantee. Just because you go to the Landmark Forum, you're going to get engaged.
That is correct, but I guarantee it'll help.
But you're going to be a better person. You're going to be a much stronger, much more mature thinker and emotional intelligence and all of that. So, okay. So this podcast is for engaged couples. And, one of the things that happens is, we're dating, like you said, we're dating, and it's kind of fun. There's the new car smell. We're really not deciding a lot of things. Where do you want to go eat tonight? Where do you want to eat tomorrow night? And what are your favorite things to do? Read, attend, be a part of, get to know you. What's your favorite 80s song? I mean, those are all good things. Once you get engaged, that's where really the decision making and the communication starts to really matter. And unfortunately, a lot of the time is spent planning. We're planning an event, and that's sort of the culture that we're in. You've got this whole big event you have to plan and all that. But we're starting to make some decisions, whether it's the event or just life in general. We're talking about wedding, we're talking about money, we're talking about family, we're talking about expectations or future plans, family. Are we a blended family? All of those things are sort of being discussed. What are some of the mistakes that people make, or what are some of the pitfalls that we have early on, like in engagement season? We're not dating, so we've committed, like you're my person.
Yeah.
We're not quite married yet, but what are some of the mistakes or the things that start to pop up in engagement season?
There's, number one, a lot of acquiescing. If there isn't fighting, because it's like, well, I don't want to argue about this. So if you really want this, even though I don't like it, I'm just going to keep my mouth shut because I don't want to I don't want to ruffle feathers. I don't want to get into an argument about it. And so we condition ourselves to just keep avoiding conflict. Or on the flip side, we just argue. It tends to be one extreme or the other, right? No, but it has to be this way, but I want it to be this way. But my whole life I've envisioned that it would be like this.
Right.
Okay, well, what about what that person envisioned their whole life if they did have a vision? Or maybe they haven't planned the whole life, but they have a vision now because it's with you. Did they get a say? So wedding planning as a topic is unbelievably one of the most emotional and unreasonable and expensive topics that you'll ever have to have. So to learn how to really hear what matters to the other person and why is important. And I think the other big problem is that the first big conversations people have is about the wedding, not about the marriage.
Right.
And there are a lot of topics that you need to have discussed hardcore before the what should our cake flavor be.
Right.
And they don't.
No. And they'll go into weird, like when, we're in event planning and all of a sudden we're doing this, we're trying to do that. And there is something that will come up and it will be about money or your parents or family or something along those lines. And I've heard more than one couple, they do this thing. Well, let's talk about that after the wedding. We'll talk about that after the wedding. And you're like, no. Do that now. Do it now. Don't wait for that.
Yep.
Because in a weird way, the size of the wedding, the amount of money that you're going to spend on the wedding, the place you're going to have the wedding, and all of those things, they start to reveal your values. They start to reveal what's important to you. Are you having it in a church? Are you having it in a venue? Does it have to be big? Do you have to have 200 people? Do you because then it becomes, well, hey, why do you want that? And it's not just enough to say, well, I've always wanted it.
Right.
Okay. Help me understand. And so then you start to have a thing where if somebody says, well, you don't need that. Like, well, okay, then now it's a values conversation. Now it's gone into something else. So, how do they navigate this? How do we start to know? So you said acquiescing. Do I not acquiesce, or how should I be thinking about this? Or if I'm feeling myself doing that, how do I stop myself or check to make sure that I'm not doing something, that I'm not setting a pattern that I need to change later on?
There's a few things. Part of it is to identify it explicitly as you're doing it. Like, okay, you know what? If this means I'm stating it outright, I don't like this. I would not prefer this. I will give it to you and I will let you have it if it means that much more. So then if that's the case, can I then have this piece? I want this band as opposed to that DJ that you don't like, or I would rather do it. And so where is there going to be some compromise if I'm willing to? So where's the give and take in it? So for someone to be able to say what's good for the goose is good for the gander. You want me to acquiesce on something. Are you not willing to in return, or what's equal? It's all negotiable at that point, but to at least identify that it's happening. But frankly, I think more importantly is, when my husband, the other thing aside from attending the Landmark Forum, 25 years ago, a friend had given me this little book, and I'm going to share another resource. It's called The Hard Questions. And there's 1,000 versions of the book nowadays online, but it was by Susan Piver, and it's this little pamphlet-y thing, but it's the 100 hard questions you need to ask before tying the knot or before saying I do or something along those lines. And all the chapters, there are like 10 questions a piece on everything from family to work to money to health and religion and sex and blah, 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 all the topics. And, again, about 10 questions per chapter. And I thought this was brilliant, and I would want to know that I was going to get married to somebody who either shared or at least understood my beliefs on these things and that I understood theirs. So when he said to me, I want to get married, I think you're the one. One of the things I said was, okay, see this book. if you're willing to go through this book with me and we both still agree afterwards that this is a good match, then we'll discuss it. Then we'll talk about getting married. And fortunately, I've said that to other people in the past and they've been like, whoa. That's a lot of, I went, oh, that's too much conversation to have. Goodbye. Thank you for removing yourself from the gene pool. And, fortunately, when I said it to my husband, he went, great. Give me the book. Let's take a look. And he dove right in and I went, okay. I like that.
Deal.
That helps me trust you that you want to address the important things. And so it was interesting because some of the questions that we thought were going to be hard actually weren't. And some of the questions that we thought were going to be really easy, we had interesting areas where we did not see eye to eye on them, but we addressed them first because you don't want to get into the marriage already and then be like, wait, you don't want kids?
Right. That one's hard.
Think you should have figured that one out beforehand instead of just being super nice to them so that they would like you and want to marry. Let's put the priorities in the right place. So it's really about what you didn't talk about first, not what you do talk about in the wedding planning.
Wow. I wish I could clone you. Okay, like the ideal bride here that just being able to do. I mean, I think what happens is people are scared. I think they're scared. Like I like you and I think this will eventually work and I mean, that is sort of the biggest resistance I get to premarital counseling. Like they think I'm going to say something like disapproving, or I'm going to find something, or I'm going to come out and say, "Oh, no, you two aren't meant to be together."
Yeah.
I mean, anyone can make it work if you do work. If you do the work,
Sure.
if you're not willing to do the work, then no. I mean, they're sort of scared on don't tell me that he's not the one or she's not the one.
Right.
There is no one. Okay. And I just say that, there's 10,000 people I can match you with if I really wanted to. But you have to do the work. You You can figure this out if you're willing to ask those questions. All right, so I want to go back. I'm looking at some things that you specialize in, and I sort of go back to like college, my communications class in college, and terms like body language, body communication. When we're sitting, and especially in our culture now, where so much of our communication is text, email, phone calls, if people still use the thing for a phone. How important is it? I'm trying to figure out who you are. You're saying the right stuff. I'm hearing the right things, but I'm not sensing it on a body language communication level. How do you start to interpret that? How do you start to work with the idea of just good, strong body language in your communication?
Credibility and trust in speaking is built in great part by whether 3 different channels of communication are all in alignment, are all congruent with each other. You mentioned the words, you mentioned the body language, and the third is the voice. Your tonality, the melody, and are you kind of hesitating and creaky or clear and strong? Or, there's a lot that you read into the sound of a person's voice. And the fact is, saying certain things explicitly, yes, is important. Because I can tell you're a jerk in a very nice way, but I still said you're a jerk. Like, that's not helpful here. That's not nice. And I think where a lot of couples get in trouble is when they get angry, they call each other names. And that's something that my husband and I have never done once. And we have argued. We don't hold back from that, but we've never sworn at each other and we've never called each other names. Because if we say you're that's identification. Is that who you and what you think I am? You can't take that back. You can apologize for it. You can't take it back. That erodes trust. So yes, the words matter. And the delivery, which is the voice and the body language, change the meaning. Because if I say, I love you versus I love you.
Right.
Okay. Same words. It just goes along with, nice haircut. Nice haircut. There's a big difference in what you infer in what they meant. And that's because the words speak to the conscious mind. But the body language and the voice speak to your unconscious. That's where you feel something in your gut that says it's off. And we tend to want to ignore that little voice. And that's the voice that's looking out for us. So when someone is talking and you're reading something in their body language that, they're leaning over and the head's on the hand, or they're rolling their eyes as you're talking, or the arms are folded as they're quote unquote listening. Listen to that nonverbal communication and address it. You can say to them, I'm sharing this with you, but I'm seeing the arms folded and, there were 3 eye rolls in the last 60 seconds. I'm not getting the sense that you're trying to understand my intention behind this, or I'm sensing there's a problem here. You're not saying anything, but you clearly are not happy with what I'm sharing. Or you clearly don't agree. So, what's going on? You say you don't want to talk, or it's fine. But fine is not the same as
right.
Fine. So you have to call out the nonverbals. And if you hear the, hesitation, call it out. I hear you're saying yes, but it doesn't sound like a yes. I'm hearing in your voice a hesitation. Tell me about that hesitation. And people they need that window. They need that invitation often.
Oh, absolutely. And a lot of people ignore it. I mean, especially like you said, in engagement mode, they just kind of, I'm feeling it, I'm seeing it, and I'm just going to let it go. I'm just not going to address it. I mean, and I think I'm too far in, or I'm, we're too close to the wedding, and they just get scared. And they, what I try to tell people all the time, nothing's going to change. You're not going to wake up the day after the wedding and be like, oh my gosh, you're so different. Like what happened to you? No, you're going to go back to the same house, the same apartment, same job, whatever trip you go on or whatnot. And so you need to start addressing that stuff now. It's miserable if you wait until after the wedding, and then we're going to do all this for the first 6 months when no one's talking to you anymore. The wedding stuff's over. And all you were left to do is, hey, we need to now work on all the stuff that we haven't been addressing. So what I'm hearing you say is you address it now. If I'm seeing it now, it's not that it's going to get better or worse. It's just not going to change. I mean, we kind of are who we are. We can work on all of these things if someone addresses it with us, and if we're able to listen to it. And if you start saying, hey, I'm seeing the stuff with you, and if they're not responsive, just know that won't get better. I mean, that is kind of who we are. If you find like, hey, I love you and I want to get better because of you, because I want to be with you, then that's an important thing. If you start to see resistance in the engagement, you're in trouble.
And so those topics are not going to go away. They're just going to fester. And so what would have been a temporarily uncomfortable conversation early now becomes a massive nuke in the relationship later on. There's a family member who was in a relationship for, has been in it for a while, but around 6 months in started to have problems. And it was surprised because everything had been going so perfectly. Right. And what he realized was that he thought everything was perfect. He thought she was perfect. And she acted like he was perfect, but she had qualms. And there's always stuff that we don't love about each other's behavior or choices or whatever else, but she just wasn't telling him. And she was finally at a stage where she was starting to tell him, and he's going, whoa, but I'm the same person I've been. Why are you complaining now? Right. And it's not that you're a different person. She's been unhappy with that all this time, but she never said anything.
Right.
So now suddenly there's where's this coming from? Why are you unhappy with? And it doesn't get better after marriage.
No.
Then you're quote unquote stuck, although the divorce rate clearly shows that that's not the case.
Right.
But it's a much bigger issue, especially because, to your point, you just dropped $25,000 on a wedding or whatever else it was. And you're going to spend another $25,000 on the lawyer to start. Exactly. So how about you just have the conversations first?
Have a conversation now. Buy
That's
a cup
cheap.
of coffee is not expensive. Go have a cup of coffee and figure it out now. Okay, professionally, we're switch gears just a little bit. Professionally, you speak and write on a professional level to on a sort of a business level, you have what you call the 3 C's, and that is command the room, connect with the audience, and close the deal.
Yep.
Now, those would be great. I think if I had some CEOs in an entrepreneur filled room, I think I would pay attention to that. But those really can apply to engaged couples. And so
Sure.
how do you sort of bridge that? How do you tell us about those concepts?
Yep.
But then how do you sort of make that leap into the world of relationships?
Sure. As you mentioned, the 3 C's are to command the room, connect with the audience, and close the deal. What do they mean? To command the room from a business perspective is, when you show up, it's not about, hey, look at me, look at me, look at me, I need more attention. It's about, is there something in your presence that says, I deserve respect, that says, I have a point that I want to make. I want to share it with you. I want you to hear it. I want to engage, etc. So does it show that component? The connect with the audience means no matter what the topic is and how different your perspectives are, how different your worldviews are on this level, whatever this one point is, we're going to find that commonality where you understand me and I understand you. And we both acknowledge that. And we're going to move forward on that shared interest, that shared connection together, finding that point. And then the third is closing the deal. And that does not just mean sales. It means getting to yes, forming an agreement, moving the needle forward. Maybe you're not going to come to an official decision or resolution in the next 45 minutes, but we can start to understand a little bit more about what's involved and agree to resume later. Okay. Each conversation moves the needle forward one more step. So that's closing the deal. And that's just as important whether you're planning a wedding, planning a family, planning a career, planning a move, planning all of those other life issues. Because when you show up commanding the room, do you let the other person know, I have interests, needs, aspirations, things that I want to contribute. I have skills and strengths that I want to give you and I want to be valued for. And I want somebody to love this. I remember I'm a cook. I'm a chef. Food is my love language.
Okay,
I know, Gary Chapman talked about the other 5.
That should be an official love language.
6th, absolutely. The 6th love language. And I remember saying to somebody at one point, I will cook anything for anyone who will do the dishes afterwards. And it was like a guy I just recently met, and he's like, "Would I have to do all of them?" And I went, "Oh, we are so not made for each other." And it's not about whether or not you have to. I realized he's not a foodie. He didn't care about food at all. Yeah. And so he would not appreciate one of the biggest gifts I could give to somebody. So, okay. But I shared it and I was excited to say, this is me. And I'm showing it. Brene Brown's another great person who talks about daring greatly and sharing yourself, your whole heart, and being willing to do that. The connect with the audience is like, are we listening to each other? Are we seeking to understand where we are the same and where we are different? Because both are important. And maybe where we're different is where we can grow together, where I can learn from you, you can learn from me, I can support you, you can support me. And maybe it's going to be something like, okay, you know what? On Tuesdays, you're going to go out with the boys, and Fridays, I'm going to go out with the girls. We are not going to expect to get every need met by the other person. You got other people for that, and that's okay. But we come to that understanding. And then closing the deal, it's okay, so how are we going to make this work? What is going to be the arrangement? What's going to work? Is it going to be temporary, permanent? But being able to come to a yes together, temporarily or permanently, that's the key.
So when we're not agreeing, so let's go to the negative for just a little bit. Like, we're in a disagreement. How do we still communicate well? Like, how do we still? Cause one of the things that I'll see with younger relationships is we will have disagreements. Yep. What tends to happen is so we disagree, and then we'll kind of hit this sort of fine, we're done, and then we're gonna go to separate corners for a little bit. I'm going to hang up or whatever, or I'm sleeping on the couch tonight or whatever the situation is. There's a physical attraction. I still like you. I still want you. I still need you. And so that physical attraction will pull us back together because I just want to be close to you again on a physical level. And we will make up. It's always sort of that the makeup language in the relationship. That's sort of a trope, but we're going to make up, and we think because we made out again, or we're intimate again, or we've done all these things, we fixed it. No, you didn't fix anything. You just really like each other, and that's fine. And that's probably how you met each other in the beginning, anyways. But how when we're disagreeing, it's not the amount of arguments. I guess that's one of the main things. We only have one argument a week. Or we only have, we never argue. We only have one argument a month, or whatever. Or we always argue, but then we have this incredible makeup season. That's not good communication. I mean, none of those models work. And so when there's confusion on, hey, we made up. Why are you still mad at me? Because you really didn't solve the problem. So talk about that. We're just in a disagreement. We're not seeing it eye to eye. How do you do good communication in those moments or those seasons?
Oh, this is going to be a whole separate conversation that you and I are going to have to dig into all this stuff. But, when everybody has different argumentation styles, right? There are avoiders who are just conflict averse, come from families where we don't talk about stuff. We just sweep it under the rug and we just keep the peace. And as long as there's surface level, visible peace, that's good in their minds. And then there are others who are like, no, we yell about everything. We work it out. We fight it out. We take care of it and it is done. And then we go have a sandwich. But that latter is definitely my husband's family and how he was raised. It was the Philly Italian, everybody's yelling.
Right.
I actually saw, there was an Italian festival we went to this past weekend. And there was a sign I saw that said, I'm not yelling, I'm just Italian.
That's very true.
And I'm Italian too, but my family didn't do that. There wasn't arguing. I literally never saw my parents argue in my whole life.
Wow.
Never witnessed parents. So I didn't think married couples argue. I thought you're supposed to find the person that you don't argue with.
Right.
Well, that didn't happen. So then it became, okay, well, how do I, have this conversation? And I was willing to have the conversations and to argue, but I needed to be heard too and not be interrupted and not be, and again, it's not a criticism. That was their family dynamic. I'm pretty sure to this day, no one in his family has ever completed a sentence when in talking with each other. It's just that constant overlap. Again, not a criticism, but at some point I had a personal need to be able to finish a sentence and get heard, etc. So I created a tool, and I'm happy to offer it to everybody who's listening. I'll give you a link. You can put it in the show notes.
Very good.
A tool, and which would allow us to address the hard topics in a way with a little bit of a protocol to ensure that we would both get a chance to be fully heard, and we would both get listened to uninterrupted, and we would both be. There were requirements, steps along the way where we would each have to acknowledge and confirm having accurately heard. Not agreed with. That's different. You don't have to agree with me, but I need to know that you heard what I said. So if I say to you something like, I don't like when I'm trying to say something to you and you're staring at your phone, you're letting me know that you heard that is not by responding with, so you think I'm a bad husband.
Right.
No, that is not what I said. And as soon as you go into the interpretation, it's a cannonball. Because then it becomes, what was the intent and what are you assuming and what are you projecting? What did you hear me say? I need to know that you've heard. So the protocol goes through all this, and it was, a few steps. And I figured we had deep stuff that we had been constantly circling around. And so one day I knew we had to have this conversation because we were constantly butting heads over it. And so I made up this little protocol and I brought it to him. I printed it out and I said, I want to ask you to try something with me. I put this together. Here's why we need to talk about this. Can we please try this? And it's something that we used it and it became a regular part of our dynamic. And whenever there was a hard conversation we had to have, it's like, you know what? Let's get the sheet, bring it out, and let's have this conversation. And now, my husband and I for the last 7 or 8 years have been teaching communication for engaged couples classes through our church. And this is one of the tools that we use. And when when we're introducing it and he's sharing his side of the story, he'll say, when Laura first came to me with this protocol for having the conversations. He's like, I thought it was the stupidest thing I'd ever heard until it worked.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing. And he realized that it was hard and but to be able to listen, and what's good for the goose is good for the gander. So if I let you talk and you feel great about getting to do this, then okay, I held my peace. Now it's my turn. Now you need to give me the same courtesy I gave you. I didn't interrupt you. You don't interrupt me. I gave you this back. Now you need to give me back. I validate. I don't agree with that, but I heard and I acknowledged your feelings and I recognized where I needed to adjust certain interpretations, and I give you credit where credit was due. Now it's your turn to give that back to me, and you got it. And so it's a fully egalitarian construct of how to have the conversation. And it also makes sure that nobody dominates. Nobody gets to just say, no, I'm fine. I don't have it. Nope. You've got your turn. There's 6 steps. Go. And usually by the second time around, people are like, oh yeah, no, I want my turn. None of this. I'm just going to sit back. So, no one gets to dominate. No one gets to acquiesce. Everyone goes through it, but everybody gets the validation and the catharsis of knowing that they've been heard. You may not agree with everything, and that may be another conversation, but you can finally move the needle. You finally hear the other person's intention. Even if you think, okay, they said, let me get this straight. You said the moon is made of cheese. I want to make sure I understood that. The moon is made of cheese. Did I hear that correctly? Not like you think the moon is made of cheese. That's not judgment free. That's not neutral.
Right.
Did I hear you say, I may think it's the dumbest thing I ever heard in my life, but I am going to not communicate that feeling at the moment. I just want to make sure I heard it right before I do anything else. Moon is made of cheese. Yes, that's right. Okay. Note to self, I will address that later.
I will address cheese moon later.
Yes.
So I want to go back to one thing real quick.
Please.
So your third C is close the deal. And I guess I'm super curious on this. How do you close out a conversation? Other than we got other stuff to do, or someone calls us, or we just got to get to work or whatever. How do you successfully land the plane, or an example of how that worked? We did the stuff, we did the protocol, we listened, we heard, we watched the body language. How do you know that you've landed the plane?
There's 2 big picture categories there. One is, did we come to a resolution? Is there a formal conclusion? Did we come to a decision together that we can both live with? What our song is going to be for our first dance? Whether or not we're going to invite my Uncle George, who is going to be drunk in the first half hour and probably before he even arrives. Are we going to? If you've come to a decision, okay, you've come to the decision. Great, that's an easy plane to land. The other is, and as often happens with the larger issues, maybe it isn't that. Okay, we've got an hour. We've had this discussion. And we still don't agree, but what have we achieved? A chance to say, where did we start and where are we now? What value have you gotten out of this? What have you learned? What do you feel better about? What are we clearer on? So to do a little bit of a debrief and say, okay, if nothing else, do you feel heard? Do you feel like I heard you? I feel like I feel heard on this part. And I appreciate the fact that you acknowledged this, that you thanked me for that you apologized for this, that you recognized my intention on that. You never gave me that before. We still don't agree on where we're going to get married, but at least you understand why this matters to me. And there's empathy. And I believe that you understand why this matters to me. And you feel legitimately that I now can respect why you want this. I may not like it. I may not want it, but at least you feel respected. You feel heard, not like I've been shutting you down. Like we usually shut each other down. So has something moved along those ways? That in itself will bring you closer together, because there's a psychological safety in knowing that you can talk about the important stuff without having it be a total cannonball in the relationship. So I think it's about moving the needle forward. Have we come to an understanding on some level that is just maybe another 2%, but it's 2% in the right direction? Okay, so you know what? We'll bring it up again another time.
And those are important words. I would say it's the debrief. It's the sort of this evaluated experience that we really don't use this a whole lot. We just kind of get past things in relationships. One of the things I'm fascinated with your work is for years I've been working on this concept with couples called the business meeting. And it's the most unromantic thought. Like, I'm going to have a business meeting with my spouse. But the concept's kind of simple. Like, it's not date night. Don't do this on date night. Don't do this on fun day. Don't do this on your weekend away, whatever. Yeah. It is a meeting. We're going to have a meeting. And it doesn't have to be an hour meeting, but these are the things we need to talk about. Yep. We need to talk about our calendar. We need to talk about our time and our tasks and what are some of the big topics. And it's not you're going to solve all of them. There's probably 7 or 8 topics you're going to keep talking about for the rest of your life. Money, finances, kids, our plans, all that stuff. You don't solve them. You keep managing them. But you have sort of this set time, and you can, in that context, evaluate to say, did we solve it? Just like a business meeting. We're at the end. Did we solve this? If you're a business and you keep bringing up the same topics meeting after meeting after meeting, you're not a successful business.
Nope.
I would hope that if I pulled out Apple's business board meeting minutes from October of 2022, I would assume they're not still talking about this stuff now. They've well moved on. That's five iPhones ago, I guess. Yeah. If they were, they would not be Apple. They would not be successful. They would be they would be stuck. And so relationships that get stuck is like, hey, this is the same stuff we talked about. We talked, and someone may say, I feel like we just talked about this. I feel like we did this last month. I feel like we did this last year. I feel like we're doing this every holiday. Yep. I feel like we're doing this all the time. And so I appreciate that idea that debrief, there's an evaluation. Did I hear you correctly? Did you say it this way? Are you're really making this claim about the moon and the cheese? But that's an important thing. It's not that we're done.
Nope.
Did we land it? Did we come to some kind of resolution? Quitting and resolution are not the same. Giving up and resolution are not the same thing.
Yes. And landing the plane may just be landing the plane on this leg of the trip. Now there's a transfer and another. Oh, yeah. You're going to keep going. It's not the destination single flight.
Absolutely.
Not always. It can be. And that's great when it is.
So tell us real quick, just how can people find you? How can people find you, your book, for relationship stuff, for professional stuff? Where's the best place for people to locate and learn more about you?
Easiest place to go is my website, which is simply laurasicola.com. It's got references to my book. It's got lots of videos, podcasts. This one will certainly be on it front and center as soon as we go live. There's links to my book. There, you can see me on LinkedIn. I do have a newsletter. So if you're on the website, I would invite everyone. It's just comes out once a week. There's always stories. There's tips. There's skills. There's resources. And so just a little no spam and all that kind of stuff. But if you like a little tip in your inbox each week on how to be a better communicator at work and everywhere else for that matter, I would love to have you join.
Very cool. Well, any last word? You have a vast audience in front of you, but you have this engaged couple. We've been engaged for 2 months. We're going to get married at some point in the next 6 months. What's the best last piece of advice that you would want to give to engaged couples before we sign off?
Practice communicating together before you get married. So
very good.
If you're avoiding stuff before you get married, it's not going to go away, and it will be far worse to discuss later. Just have those conversations and know that you can trust the other partner to have those hard conversations with you, because that's the person you want to marry.
Laura, I could not have said that better myself. That was amazing. Thank you so much for being with us today. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you, David. Loved every minute of it.